Times for the headlines. A resurgent tropical cyclone Harold flattened tourist resorts in Tonga on Thursday, extending a week-long trail of destruction across 4 South Pacific island nations that has claimed more than 24 lives. U.S. President Donald Trump and WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus disagree over alleged politicizing of the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Health Organization is pleading for global unity in the face of accusations from President Trump that the UN Health Agency is very China-centric.
Keep the borders open.
And we're live in Japan, the United Kingdom, Spain, Australia, Switzerland, and Hawaii. I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us tonight. These are unprecedented times. Events unfold and change by the minute. And as the days go by, we watch as our leaders cope with relentless march of this virus and disease. And now to the news. First to Tonga, a resurgent tropical cyclone Harold flattened tourist resorts in Tonga, extending a week-long trail of destruction across 4 South Pacific island nations that has already claimed more than 24 lives. The cyclone gathered pace as it bore down on the tiny island kingdom, which declared a state of emergency, warning residents to seek shelter from destructive winds and massive sea surges. By early Thursday, it had again become a scale-topping Category 5 superstorm, surprising meteorologists after signs earlier in the week that its intensity was already dropping. Packing winds of up to 260 kilometers per hour, it cut power in parts of the country, and police said at least 3 tourist resorts north of the capital, Nuku'alofa, had been reduced to rubble. The cyclone killed 27 people in the Solomons late last week before barreling southeast to directly hit Vanuatu as a Category 5, obliterating entire towns in the northern provinces. There have been no reports of deaths in Vanuatu, Fiji, or Tonga, with emergency workers saying residents in the hardest hit areas took shelter early. It appears that many buildings and crops have been destroyed, and some people in the most affected areas have lost everything. That is according to the Red Cross Vanuatu Secretary General Jacqueline de Gelandi. Harold weakened slightly to a still formidable Category 4 as it lashed Fiji on Wednesday, but hopes the storm was dissipating were dashed as it regained momentum heading towards Tonga. The World Health Organization pleaded for global unity in fighting the coronavirus following U.S. President Trump's stinging attack on its handling of the epidemic. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus hit back at accusations that it had been too close to Beijing. Take a look.
I was a politician. I know how difficult this could be. I know it. Although it's difficult, it's the right thing to do. At the end of the day, the people belongs to all political parties. The focus of all political parties should be to save their people. Please don't politicize this virus. It exploits the differences you have at the national level. If you want to be exploited, and if you want to have many more body bags, then you do it. If you don't want many more body bags, then you refrain from politicizing it. My short message is, please quarantine politicizing COVID. The unity of your country will be very important to defeat this dangerous virus. Without unity, we assure you, even any country that may have a better system will be in trouble and more crisis. That's our message. Unity at national level, no politicizing, No need to use COVID to score political points.
When you say more body bags, I think we would have done, and he would have been much better serving the people that he's supposed to serve if they gave a correct analysis. I mean, everything was, I said, China-centric. Everything was going to be fine, no human to human, keep the borders open. He wanted me to keep the borders open. I closed the borders despite him, and that was a hard decision to make at the time. We were all together. We made a decision against the World Health Organization. So when he says politicizing, he's politicizing. That shouldn't be. But look, we spend $450 billion, $452 billion, almost $500 billion last year, hundreds of billions in previous years. And they got to do better than that. They got to do better. When you talk about politics, I can't believe he's talking about politics when look at the relationship they have to China. So China spends 42 million, we spend 450 million, and everything seems to be China's way. That's not right. It's not fair to us, and honestly, it's not fair to the world. Okay, question in the back? Yeah.
The WHO has been criticized for its decision not to call COVID-19 a pandemic until March 11, long after many experts suggested it should do so, as well as for its praise of China's outbreak response. World trade is expected to fall by between 13% and 32% in 2020 as the COVID-19 pandemic disrupts normal economic activity and life around the world. That is according to the World Trade Organization. Let's listen in.
As we confront what may well be the deepest economic recession or downturn of our lifetimes, we should aim to make the most of all potential drivers of sustainable growth to reverse this situation. Governments around the world can and must lay the foundations for a strong and socially inclusive recovery. Trade and international coordination more generally will be important ingredients here. In an optimistic scenario, our economists see the volume of global merchandise trade falling by 13% this year compared to 2019. If the pandemic is not brought under control and governments fail to implement and coordinate effective policy responses, the decline could be 32%. Or even more. The underlying causes of this economic crisis are very different from the previous ones. Our banks are not undercapitalized as they were in 2008, for example. The economic engine was in decent shape, but the pandemic cut the fuel line to the engine. Now, if the fuel line is reconnected properly, a rapid and vigorous rebound is quite possible. Two factors, in fact, will determine the strength of our recovery. One is how quickly the pandemic is brought under control. And two, the policy choices governments make. Our economists estimate that if the pandemic is brought under control relatively soon, and the right policies, of course, are in place, trade and output could rebound nearly to their pre-pandemic trajectory as early as 2021, so next year, regardless of how steep the initial fall is, and this is very important.
The impact on services trade of the COVID-19 outbreak is simply devastating because it's sudden and it is abrupt. And this is also because of the spatial nature of services, because services, unlike goods, they cannot be produced, stored, and consumed at a later stage. There is no storage of services. So, and this means that the money loss by the services sector, for example, for a missed holiday season, for canceled flights, for for multiple cancellations of recreational sports and events, it will never be recovered.
We need coordinated action. We need countries to pay attention to fiscal policy, make sure those fiscal policies are targeted to those households that need the income the most, paying attention to small, medium-sized enterprises and making sure that they have liquidity to draw upon to open back up. Coordinating those actions across countries so that countries can experience sort of the dynamic feedback effect of the recovery and not just trying to husband that recovery for their own purposes. So I do think that those are some pretty key indicators as to whether or not we start moving into the optimistic scenario more quickly.
The COVID-19 pandemic could provoke the deepest recession in living memory. That is also according to the World Trade Organization Chief Roberto Azevedo. Again, let's listen in.
As we confront what may well be the deepest economic recession or downturn of our lifetimes, we should aim to make the most of all potential drivers of sustainable growth to reverse this situation. Governments around the world can and must lay the foundations for a strong and socially inclusive recovery. Trade and international coordination more generally will be important ingredients here.
Meanwhile, here are some highlights from the Center for Disease Control regarding the coronavirus. Let's listen in.
The majority of the Italians who succumbed to this had 3 or more comorbidities. So this has been known from the beginning. So those individuals will have an underlying condition, but that underlying condition did not cause their acute death when it's related to a COVID infection. In fact, it's the opposite. Having an underlying condition and getting this virus, we know, is particularly damaging to those individuals. We don't know all the pathophysiology. I wish we did right now. We see a lot of vasculitis where Tony and I came from. Tony actually, Dr. Fauci started in the vasculitides and Wegener's. So, I mean, these are things we have studied for a long time. We are trying to understand the pathophysiology, but what we can tell you at this moment, if you have asthma, if you have renal disease, if you have diabetes, if you have hypertension, these are pre-existing conditions that put you at a greater risk to having a worse outcome.
So, Jim, just to add a comment to that, because, you know, having been through other serious issues, particularly the very painful early years of HIV, AIDS, when people talk about conspiracy theories, you will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions. You know, I can assure you we have so much to do to protect the health and the welfare of the American people that I would just hope we just put those conspiracy stuff and let somebody write a book about it later on, but not now.
And so we've put out a new guidance for essential healthcare workers who've been exposed to the coronavirus. These are individuals that have been within 6 feet of a confirmed case or a suspected case, and so that they can, under certain circumstances, they can go back to work. If they're asymptomatic, as the Vice President said, they could go back to work if they do several things, as we say here. Take their temperature before they go to work, wear a face mask at all times, and practice social distancing when they're at work. What we'd ask them not to do where they're at work is we want them to stay at home if they're sick. We want them not to share objects that would be touching their face, and we would like them not to congregate in break rooms, lunch rooms, and crowded places. And in the second slide, if we're talking to the employers of these critical industries, we would ask those employers to take the employee's temperature and assess their symptoms before starting them back to work. If the employee does become sick, we want them to be sent home immediately. We'd like them to increase air exchange in the buildings and increase the frequency of how they clean common surfaces and really begin to get these workers back into the critical.
Meanwhile, New York recorded a new single-day high for coronavirus deaths on Wednesday, but Governor Andrew Cuomo said the epidemic appeared to be stabilizing. New York is bearing the brunt of America's deadly coronavirus pandemic, accounting for around half the number of deaths across the country. And the governor said that despite the rise, the hospitalization rate was continuing to decrease because of social confinement orders. Take a look.
Hospitalizations drop and the death toll rises. I understand the science of it. I understand the facts and the logic of it, but it is still incredibly difficult to deal with. Every number is a face, right? This 9/11, which so many of us lived through, in this state and in this nation, 2,753 lives lost. This crisis, we lost 6,268 New Yorkers. I'm going to direct all flags to be flown at half-mast in honor of those who we have lost to this virus. On voting, I've seen lines of people on television voting in other states. This is totally nonsensical. God bless them for having such diligence for their civic duty that they would go stand on a line to vote, but people shouldn't have to make that choice. We're also going to make an additional $600 payment to all unemployed New Yorkers. The federal government says they will reimburse us for it, but people need money now in their pocket. So New York will be doing that immediately. We're also extending the period covered by unemployment benefits for an additional 13 weeks. If we continue doing what we're doing, then we believe the curve will continue to flatten. But it's not a time to get complacent. It's not a time to do anything different than we have been doing. Remember what happened in Italy when the entire healthcare system became overrun?
He added that if the rate continues to go down, the hospital system will stabilize over the next 2 weeks, which will minimize the need for temporary hospitals. Field hospitals have been set up in Central Park at the home of the U.S. Tennis Center, in a convention center, and on a U.S. Navy ship to deal with the influx of patients. Governor Cuomo also said the death toll was high because people put on ventilators when hospitalization rates soared in previous weeks were now passing away. On Monday, the governor extended the statewide shutdown of schools and non-essential businesses until April 29. And here's Thomas I. Likeness for an update on the coronavirus situation in Edmonton, Canada. Thomas?
Life as Canadians once knew it could be up to 12 months away, and that's according to our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Trudeau says although he has no idea when the COVID-19 outbreak will peak, he does know that restrictions will have to come off gradually. And he says until a vaccine is developed, we can't go back to the way things were before the outbreak. And he says, though, a vaccine could be a year off. Well, here's a look at the numbers in Canada. 18,500 cases of COVID-19, 401 deaths from the infection. Some other things from his daily briefing. Trudeau announced help for students seeking summer employment. Now, students often have trouble finding a summer job, and this year it's just going to be more difficult. You know, businesses just aren't hiring. They're laying off. They're laying off. They're not taking people on. So the government is making changes to the Canada Summer Jobs Program. And hopefully this will encourage businesses to hire students. Get this, the government will give employers a subsidy of up to 100% of the wages they're paying out. Not a bad deal. So hopefully small businessmen can take advantage of that subsidy, hire some students. That gives them some money so they can afford to go back to college or university this fall. Also, the government's set to release the unemployment figures for March. That'll be tomorrow, Trudeau said. Expect some bad news in those figures. He does. He says it's going to be a hard day for the country. He says we're facing a unique challenge, but he concludes by saying we just have to pull together. We just have to be united. We do this, we work together, the economy will come roaring back after the crisis. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney also expressing concern about the numbers, and he's not sugarcoating this one at all. He says he wouldn't be surprised if it's the worst job numbers that have been published in 80 years. 8 decades. We're going back to the 1930s to see numbers like that. We'll update you on that tomorrow. In the meantime, I wish you all good health. Take care of others and take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Thomas. After 76 days of lockdown, people are finally leaving Wuhan, in the city where the coronavirus first emerged. Thousands flocked to train stations as a strict travel ban was lifted. But elsewhere, rules are tightening as Europe's death toll continues to soar. Meanwhile, African countries are preparing for the weeks ahead. President Trump accused the World Health Organization, as we saw earlier, a bias towards China. And around the world, zoos struggle for survival under lockdown. Here's a summary of all those reports.
解封并不意味着这个防御工作的解除，所以我们这个还是呼吁我们的广大的市民，在非必要这个离汉离鄂的或者复工复产的，还是尽量少出门，尽量不出门，不聚集。
Moi, ça serait dit. Et c'est pas uniquement pour moi, j'ai même mes amis, mes collègues et tout, qui sont accros du sport et tout. Déjà, il n'y a pas de salle. Déjà, nous, on est habitués à aller à la salle et tout. Déjà, c'est cette adrénaline, ça nous manque un peu. Et c'est ce jogging-là, pour peut-être une demi-heure, 1 heure comme ça va un petit peu remplacer le
Basically, what you are seeing here is a building provided by the Federal Capital Territory Administration to be used as an isolation and treatment center for COVID-19.
To be honest, I was so appalled. This kind of racist remarks actually would not help. It goes against the solidarity. Africa cannot and will not be a testing ground for any vaccine.
They called it wrong. They called it wrong. They missed the call. They could have called it months earlier. They would have known. And they should have known. And they probably did know. So we'll be looking into that very carefully. It's a great thing if it works, but when they call every shot wrong, that's just no good.
El día de hoy venimos a hacer una serenata de la salud para alegrar a todos los corazones de los pacientes, médicos y personas familiares que están aquí en este hospital.
Hemos sido una institución muy seria en términos financieros, pero pues nadie esperaba enfrentarse a un cierre pues, que durará varios meses, no sabemos hasta cuándo.
Everything happens exactly the same. We still come in, start work at the same time, still have to feed, still had to clean all the animals. But yeah, it's just a little bit weird and different at the minute.
And we're live with our EBC bureaus around the world. That's up next. We'll be back.
To date, SMC infrastructure remains at the forefront of Boracay Airport's modernization. The current and long-term developments include the construction of an international airport passenger terminal and the extension of the existing runway to better serve bigger aircrafts, providing tourists with world-class access to this slice of paradise.
Alamin ang mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin ngayong panahon ng enhanced community quarantine dahil sa banta ng COVID-19. Ano-ano nga ba ang patakaran sa pagbabiyahe, papasok at paglabas ng bansa? Ang mga Pilipino at kanilang mga pamilya ay papayagang bumalik mula sa ibang bansa. Gayon din ang lahat ng mga permanenteng residente ng Pilipinas. Pati na ang mga diplomat at miyembro ng mga international organization. Lahat sila ay sasailalim sa mandatory quarantine alinsunod sa nakatakdang panuntunan. Maaari ring lumabas ng bansa ang mga OFW, balikbayan at mga banyaga. Hindi naman papayagan ang paghahatid at pagsusundo ng grupo sa mga pasahero. Gayon din ang anumang biyaheng pangturista, papasok at palabas ng bansa. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to!
This program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa. Cadrid Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. DN Steel. EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation.
Welcome back. The number of confirmed coronavirus infections has soared in Tokyo and elsewhere. Joining us live from Japan is Tyra Lu. Tyra?
Good evening, Alma.
Hello, Tyra. How are you doing?
Yes, we're doing good, Alma. So for tonight's update, the number of confirmed coronavirus infections has soared in Tokyo and elsewhere, pushing the total in Japan to more than 5,000. At least 265 new cases were reported as of 4:40 p.m. on Thursday, that's today, bringing the total to 5,238. That figures includes 14 people who returned from China on chartered planes, as well as infections detected during airport quarantine checks. The addition of the 712 cases from the Diamond Princess cruise ship brings the tally to 5,950. By prefecture, Tokyo tops the list of infections with 1,518. The nation's capital saw 180 new cases on Thursday, as of today. That's a new one-day record. Osaka is second with 524, followed by Kanagawa with 369, Chiba with 327, Aichi 280, Hyogo 267, Saitama with 250, Hokkaido 225, and Fukuoka with 224. Meanwhile, Japan's central government and the Tokyo metropolitan government are discussing which businesses should be asked to temporarily shut down following the state of emergency declaration over the coronavirus outbreak. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe declared a state of emergency for Tokyo, Kanagawa, Saitama, Chiba, Osaka, Hyogo, and Fukuoka prefectures on Tuesday, based on a revised law enacted last month. Abe appealed to the public to cooperate in curbing the spread of the coronavirus, saying the country will make it out of the emergency in a month if they do so. The central government is urging people in the 7 prefectures to stay home to reduce person-to-person contact by 70 to 80%. But the central government wants the shutdown request to be carefully considered and limited to be maximally effective in controlling the outbreak while keeping society operating smoothly. Alma?
All right. So, Tyra, how is the state of emergency going along over there in Tokyo or in Japan?
Yes, the state of emergency declaration will be in place until May 6th. And this gives governors of the affected prefectures the authority to ask residents to refrain from non-essential excursions. The governors can also request schools to close and place limits on the use of nursery schools, elderly daycare centers, and other welfare facilities. However, the governors cannot force private companies to close. While they can urge firms to implement remote work policies or to temporarily close, they have no legal authority to mandate such action. This is because the declaration is only a request, unlike the policy-enforced stay-at-home orders seen in Italy, France, and other countries. Japan's declaration is not legally binding, and violators will not face any penalties. And aside from that, supermarkets and other stores selling food, medicine, and other everyday essentials will remain open. And for public transportation, Alma, it is deemed as essential service and is largely unaffected. So most railway and bus companies plan to maintain normal schedules. Major taxi firms in Tokyo as well will continue operations, and there are no restrictions on civilian drivers. So the country's 3 major mobile phone companies say they have taken measures to prevent any service disruptions that may result from a greater number of people working remotely. And on top of that, delivery companies are running as normal. Japan Post and the private operators Yamato Transport and Sagawa Express are delivering as usual. Prime Minister Abe Shinzo said the success of the declaration depends on people changing their own behavior. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much, Tyra. And keep safe. Stay home. We'll see you again. Thank you for your time.
Same with you. Same with you, Alma. This is Tyranel Pililu for Eagle News International from Tokyo, Japan. And we live in interesting times.
Indeed. In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson remains in hospital. And will the lockdown be extended? We have an update from our EBC correspondent there, JL Bautista. JL.
How are you, po? Hello, po, Alma.
I'm good. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good, po. So, for today's update, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson began his 4th day in intensive care, improving in his battle with coronavirus, as his government prepared to extend a nationwide lockdown introduced last month. Johnson is the most high-profile world leader to become infected with COVID-19, and his transfer to intensive care on Monday is uncommon for a prime minister during a national emergency in modern times. Senior ministers were set to discuss at Thursday's daily coronavirus response meeting the process for extending the stringent social distancing measures rolled out on March 23. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, who is deputizing for Johnson, will lead the so-called war cabinet as he has done so since Monday. However, ministers have made it clear no announcement on the status of the lockdown rolled out for an initial 3 weeks would be made until the period has ended on Monday at the earliest. Attention is now increasingly focused on when it might be able to lift the unprecedented restrictions it eventually put in place to stem the spread. Despite several European countries setting out plans to ease their lockdowns, British newspapers reported Thursday the measures were set to remain in the UK into at least the month of May, as the UK suffered its most deadliest day yesterday, recording 938 new deaths in just 24 hours. Chancellor Rishi Sunak said an end to the lockdown would be based on evidence and data provided by scientists, which will not be available until next week. Meanwhile, Britain's coronavirus lockdown might get even stricter if people head out for the bank holiday weekend. The Cultural Secretary Oliver Dowden has warned. He urged people to stay at home ahead of an emergency COBRA meeting on extending the lockdown. Back to you, Alma.
All right. JL, how are the citizenry there reacting now to the condition of the Prime Minister?
Yes, so as we all know, Boris Johnson is the first world leader known to have been diagnosed with COVID-19. Many well-known political figures have expressed their sympathy for the Prime Minister. This has also increased the public's unease about how the government have responded to the outbreak, even when Johnson was in good health and leading the country. Britain was rather slower than many other European countries to shut businesses, close schools, and restrict people's movements in a bid to limit infections. The government has struggled to meet its goal of dramatically increasing the number of people tested for the virus. With the Prime Minister having contracted the virus and sent to intensive care, it clearly serves as a warning to the British public that the virus does not discriminate, and the government has put measures in place to protect everyone, to help the healthcare staff and save lives. Thank you, Alma.
Thank you, JL, and we'll see you. Stay healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too. I am JL Bautista, EBC correspondent in the United Kingdom. We live in interesting times.
All right. And joining us from Spain is our EBC correspondent, Lynn Tumbaga Diaz. Lynn?
Hi, Alma.
Hi, Lynn. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
What are your updates for us today, Lynn?
Yes, according to the Ministry of Health, there are 146,690 confirmed cases, 14,555 deaths, and 48,021 recovered cases. And these figures are changing as we speak. And last time I reported, you asked me what what does the King of Spain say about this COVID-19 crisis? In a televised message from Madrid, King Philip VI addressed the public. This is what he said. In this situation, the first thing I want to do, together with the Queen and our daughters, is to send all my love and affection to so many families throughout Spain that have unfortunately suffered the loss of some of their loved ones. We also send it to all of you who are especially affected, both personally in your surroundings by this virus and its consequences. I wish to all of you a lot of strength and a lot of encouragement. Today, it is more just than ever to thank all peoples, entities, and public services who exceptionally are helping and sacrificing for others. And I want to embody that gratitude in one of them. We knew that we have a great healthcare system and extraordinary professionals. I want to address them now. You have our greatest admiration, respect, our total support. You are the vanguard of Spain in the fight against this disease. You are our first line of defense. Those who every day and at all hours of day are caring for those affected, healing the sick, giving comfort and hope to those who need it. Your courage and personal sacrifice are unforgettable example. We cannot thank you enough for what you are doing for your country. You cannot be surprised that an exciting and heartfelt applause can be heard from all the houses in Spain, a sincere and fair applause that I am sure that it comforts and encourages you. We must now put aside our differences. We must unite around the same objective to overcome this serious situation. We have to do it together with serenity, with confidence, but also with decision and energy. This virus will not defeat us. On the contrary, it will make us stronger as a society, a more committed, more caring, more united society, a society standing in the face of any diverse adversity. And that is what the King Philip VI of Spain said on his speech. And if you can see on your screen, there is also an advisory from the Philippine Embassy of Spain, wishes to inform the public that Spanish government has announced suspension of the deadlines regarding immigration procedures handled by the police within Spain's national territory as of 31 of March 2020. And with this note, the Consul General of the General Consulate of Madrid in Spain, Adi Cruz, also with other Filipinos in Spain, expressed their condolences to the family of the late Mrs. Nerissa Lapuin. She was a leader in a Filipino community in Spain. We also make ourselves productive this lockdown, Alma. Mrs. Rosemary Quitariano Domingo are making masks, and she is also very generous, giving it away for free to her friends living nearby her place. Also, kids are spending time mostly in the kitchen preparing for their own snacks like making pizza. And as we always do, we have our Aplauso Sanitario and tribute to frontliners. That's every 8 o'clock in the evening here in Barcelona, Spain. And we have 3 reminders from the Philippine Consulate General in Barcelona. Number 1 is to stay at home, manatili sa bahay o quédate en casa. Number 2, if you have to go out, you have to bring the certificate with you. And number 3, if you want to volunteer, you can always contact the Philippine General Consulate in Barcelona, Spain through their Facebook page.
All right.
Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much, Lynn. That was very insightful and informative. Thank you so much for your time again. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Alma. From Barcelona, Spain, I'm Lynn Bautista Tumbaga Diaz. We live in interesting times.
All right. Eagle News, we'll be right back.
This program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa. Cadred Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer. DN Steel. EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation.
Our EBC correspondent from Australia, Celine Ryan Andrews, joins us live. Hello, Celine.
Hello, Alma. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
As of 3 p.m. today.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Here are the updates from Australia. As of 3 p.m. today, there have been 6,103 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Australia. There have been 19 new cases since yesterday, which is a drastic improvement, as only a few weeks ago the cases were increasing in hundreds overnight. Of the 6,103 confirmed cases in Australia, only 51 have died. It shows how the virus can spread through the Australian population under different scenarios, but does not predict the future or factually represent Australia's current position. Data suggests that the physical distancing of 1.5 metres and the other measures that are being implemented and taken in Australia are slowing the growth in cases to a point where the health system can meet expanded demands. We've all been affected by this pandemic, whether it be directly or indirectly. That's why the Australian government is helping each and every one of their citizens as much as possible. Many of those may be losing their forms of income, small businesses going into bankruptcy, mental health on the rise. So they've created 24-hour hotlines which you can call for mental support, which has been a great assistance for those that need it. The long Easter weekend will start tomorrow, which means more people will have the urge to want to go out and celebrate and spend time with their friends and loved ones, but all the more are advised to stay indoors at this time as more police will be on patrol on the roads. One day this will all be a distant memory to all of us. With each other's help, we can get through this as one big community. This is just one pandemic we will overcome soon enough as we continue to have more and greater resources. One day this will be something in history we can all look back on and admire how we as a community can overcome together in times of hardships. That's all for now, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much for that update, Celine, and we'll see you again. Please keep safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. This is Celine Ryan Andrews from Gold Coast, Australia. We live in different times.
All right, let's get the latest from the World Health Organization, United Nations. Here's Jim Hippolito joining us from our EBC Switzerland Bureau. Jim?
Good evening, Alma, and thank you for having me once again. The latest update from Geneva, it is incredible to reflect on how dramatically the world has changed in such a short period of time. That's according to the head of the UN Health Agency, WHO, Dr. Tedros, on the eve of the 100th day since the WHO was notified of the first cases of what will become known as COVID-19 in China. The World Health Organization on Wednesday pleaded for global unity in fighting the coronavirus following US President Donald Trump's stinging attack on its handling of the pandemic.
We will be doing in the near future to alleviate suffering. We convened the emergency committee on the 22nd of January, and again a week later, after the first cases of human-to-human transmission were reported outside China, and declared a public health emergency of international concern, our highest level of alarm. At the time, there were 98 cases outside China and no deaths. We activated our global expert networks to tap the world's leading epidemiologists, clinicians, social scientists, statisticians, virologists, risk communicators, and others to make our response truly global and to capture all the support we need from all over the world, from WHO experts and from other experts in many of the institutions we have globally. If we care about our citizens, please work across party lines, across ideology, across beliefs, across any differences for that matter. We need to behave. That's how we can defeat this virus. Through the Solidarity Response Fund, the United States and China should come together and fight this dangerous enemy. They should come together to fight it. And the rest of G20 should come together to fight it. And the rest of the world should come together to fight it. This virus is dangerous. We said it many times. It has the elements of a flu, very contagious, and it has the elements of SARS, fatal. I don't care who says what about me. I would prefer to focus on saving lives. No time to waste. Advice for individuals and communities, health workers, employers. With unity, with solidarity at national level, global level, resources will not be a problem. We're asking to quarantine politicizing. We're asking for a genuine solidarity. So what's resource? It will come from all.
With regards to pets, so yes, we are aware of some pets being infected in households of confirmed cases. So we're aware of 2 dogs that have been infected in Hong Kong, a cat in Belgium, and we've heard recently the reports of a tiger at the Bronx Zoo. There are several groups that are conducting investigations in animals to really understand how pets are infected. It seems like they are infected from their owners who are infected. We're working very closer with our partner agencies at FAO and OIE to really look more in depth at the role of pets. We don't believe that they're playing a role in transmission, but we think that they may be able to be infected from an infected person. And so they're not a major driver playing a major role in transmission in COVID-19 outbreak.
Advise on every element of the response. We activate.
WHO officials said that they are investigating several cases where pets and even a tiger appear to have been infected with the coronavirus. WHO said one study conducted on cats in Wuhan found that the pets could be infected with the coronavirus. On Sunday, officials said a 4-year-old tiger at the Bronx Zoo named Nadia tested positive for COVID-19 after developing a dry cough, the Wildlife Conservation Society's Bronx Zoo said in a statement. The tiger that tested positive is believed to have become infected by a zoo employee. Nadia first began to show symptoms on March 27, the United States Department of Agriculture said. In late February, a Hong Kong dog became the first reported animal that tested positive for the coronavirus. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Jim. I know you're always busy, but you always make time for us. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Alma. And reporting for ABC Geneva Bureau, this is Jim Hipolito, and we live in interesting times.
And joining us live from Hawaii, here is Alfred Asenas. Alfred.
Aloha, Alma.
Aloha.
Thank, let's go ahead. Just pull up one of those two flyers that I sent to the group. The first one really got my attention. A friendly reminder from the city county of Honolulu about staying indoors. And if we can pull up that poster there, it's very blunt. It's very straightforward. Keep your butts off the beach, okay? Kasi it's really, obviously it's easier said than done when you're dealing with a culture that has a lot of outdoor activities to include going to the beach and swimming. But the city county of Honolulu is constantly reminding residents and as well as tourists to not be outdoors and to not gather along the sand shore. But of course, but they're allowing swimming, snorkeling, and a bit of exercising to stay in shape, but not to gather in groups. And the other highlight I wanted to share with everyone as we continue to tally the numbers here. One of the other major items that took place earlier yesterday was 15 additional cases were discovered in one hospital, and that's the Maui Medical Center. 15 staff workers were tested positive for COVID-19. And that really woke up a lot of officials, especially on Maui, when, at this point, there's still fewer cases there than here on Oahu. And we managed to talk to one of the health workers there. She's actually in a management position, but because of Privacy Act concerns and given her position, she didn't want to disclose anymore, and she wanted to remain anonymous. But she let me quote her by saying that the hospital here is doing its best to keep our patients, so this is what she's saying, and the staff here as safe as possible. As for me, it is important that we stay positive, keeping everyone else positive in order to be able to care for our patients. We emphasize the importance of proper PPE, protective equipment, and good practice to prevent the spread of the virus and support everyone as much as we can. I have been trying to keep my head above water as much as I can. So really, there's not much to share as the situation is developing. So we're going to continue to monitor the developments here in Hawaii, which also triggered a message from Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard calling for the resignation of the health director here and one of the other health officials. So there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of concern from other political officials about how the state has been handling. But just like anywhere else in the world, Alma, the government, whoever's in charge, are doing the best they can to prevent the spread and to contain this virus once and for all. Alma.
Okay, so keep your butts off the beach. That's what it's saying. But
yeah, I wish
so
we could pull up that poster.
But there are still people in the beach. Is that what you're saying? Are they allowed to still? I thought the beaches are closed.
The sand portion, ganito yun, no? So the people can still swim.
Okay.
The people can still, go jogging, doing, physical exercise, but they cannot gather themselves. They cannot loiter on the sand. Once they get up to the beach, they go straight to the water or they go jogging around it, but they cannot stay put. That's what City County of Honolulu is emphasizing, Alma.
So if you were caught violating that rule, what is going to happen to them?
Okay, the fines. The police has accounted for up to 400 citations so far. Ever since this law was enforced, and I think dozens of arrests have been made. I'm not sure of the fine, but HPD has even tweeted here that they're stepping up enforcement for everyone's safety, especially out in the beaches. And other attractions, where tourists and residents are normally, normally go to.
All right, thank you so much. Alfred, I know it's early morning over there. Thank you for making time for us. Waking up everybody.
Alfred Asanas, Alfred Asanas, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Aloha, Alma.
Aloha. All right, then may we leave you with a word of hope. Together we are strong. Together we can persevere. Getting through this will take everyone working together, and let's do our part. And that's the news for tonight. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.